Today's class is going to use the yoga wheel to help you strengthen your shoulders, your arms, and your core. These are really helpful drills to build strength in your body, especially to prepare for poses like headstand or arm balances or other more challenging poses. So make sure you have your wheel and a mat, and let's get started.
We'll start by moving the wheel out to the side and just coming into a tabletop position. Let's start to warm up the wrists by shifting our weight forward and back. Make sure you're spreading through the fingers and just shifting the shoulders forward over your wrists, then leaning all the way back. Little rocking movements forward and back here, feeling into the wrists. Then we're going to add circular movements going in one direction, drawing circular shapes with the shoulders, and then going in the opposite direction. So really just getting into the wrist joints and into the forearms before we place a bit more weight into them. Now we're going to start to use the wheel, and it can be a little bit tricky getting into this position initially, but we want to use the hands to pull that wheel right up into the top of the ankles, into the tops of the feet. You might even need to shuffle your hands and your knees a little further back so you've got the wheel quite close towards your knees. Now you're going to push down into the tops of the feet and just have a feel here. If it feels like your wheel's going to topple over, then you just need to readjust it to make sure both feet are quite evenly placed onto the top of the wheel. So when you kick into the tops of the feet and your ankles, you should be able to just roll the wheel back behind you into a full plank position. So try that out and keep adjusting until you're feeling like it's sitting quite evenly and balanced underneath the ankles. And then come back into that full plank position. Now make sure you're really pressing down through the fingers. You're drawing the belly in and stabilizing your core so you're not just dumping into your lower back and sagging the hips. Find that full plank, and once you're there, hold there. Pressing into the tops of the feet and ankles, really switching on your thighs, switching on your core, and holding there for about 5 breaths or even shorter. Then you can drop the knees down and rest. Now you can continue this with your palms down, but if your wrists do feel uncomfortable, then feel free to drop down to the elbows and forearms here. Here I've got my fingers interlaced so I can press a little more evenly through the pinky finger side of the hands into the forearms and into the elbows. And then just finding that plank position again, sending the feet back, pressing into the tops of the feet and ankles, and trying to hold here. We're trying to keep the shoulders over the elbows. You won't be able to find such a straight line in the forearm plank, but same engagement through that lower belly. Holding here, again, maybe 5 breaths or even 10 breaths, or just until you feel like you can't hold anymore, and then you can drop those knees down and rest. These drills can be quite challenging, especially with the wheel, because we have to use that core a lot to balance, otherwise you're going to flip over. So just play with that, and if it's the first time you're trying these movements, it might take a few goes to really become familiar and comfortable with this. But if this is feeling all okay, you're going to do that again and just send the feet back again onto the wheel. Come back into the plank on your palms or with your elbows down and hold there. Just repeating that same drill, trying to hold for 5 breaths or 10 breaths, and then dropping the knees down and resting again. Okay, now you can move that wheel out of the way and just rest in a child's pose. Relaxing your head down. Maybe feeling a bit of heat there through your shoulders and your arms and in your abdominals. If you're quite new to this movement, maybe this is already enough for you today, and just working on that. The next step from this movement now is just a similar position, but adding a little bit more. So again, we're bringing the feet up onto the top of the wheel, and then we're going to press down into the tops of the feet, Maybe staying on the elbows here, otherwise you could try coming back onto the palms. Find the plank position again. And this time we're going to start to find a little crunch movement. So you're going to try to bring the knees in towards the chest and then send the legs back out. Inhaling to bring the knees in and then exhale to send the legs back out. So you notice that as I bring the knees in, I'm coming right onto the very tops of the feet, almost towards the tiptoes. If you'd like to add a little bit more, you can even try to lift the hips up. So when you bring the knees in, it's like you're lifting the hips up over the shoulders and then exhale, sending the hips back. Inhaling to bring the knees in and exhale to send the hips back. So have a little play with that. You can see I'm quite tired here already. It can be quite challenging and you're just resting, catching your breath, giving that a go. And you might even want to skip that next round. Otherwise, we're going to do that again. So if the wrists feel quite uncomfortable, remember to drop down to the elbows. Make sure you're not straining your wrists too much. The same thing. We're going to press into the tops of the feet, send the feet back, finding your plank, and then bring the knees in. See if you can lift the hips up higher and exhale to send the feet back. Come back into that plank position. Inhale to bring the knees in, hips lift. Exhale to straighten those legs out. Inhale, knees in, hips up. Exhale, legs extending back. Inhale, knees in, hips up. Exhale, extending the legs back, and then gently lower those knees. And once again, just move that wheel out of the way. Come back to a child's pose or back to a kneeling position, and just take a few moments to shake out the arms, your wrists, sighing the breaths out so you can catch your breath. Now, I went through those movements quite quickly, but make sure you go back and pause the video as often as you need to get a better picture, a better idea of those movements. This last movement here is a stronger variation still, and we're going to piece all of that together. So we're going to bring the tops of the feet onto the wheel again, and this time you're going to try to come up into a full pike. So come back into your plank position first. You can stay on the wrists, on the palms, or you can do this with the elbows down. We're going to keep the legs straight now as we lift the hips up. Focus on hips up over the shoulders and then rolling all the way back down. Inhale, push down into the palms or your elbows. Lift those hips up, bring them up over the shoulders. Exhale to come back into the plank. Inhale to push, lift those hips up. Exhale to roll the feet back, and then just bring those knees down. So I just did 3 there, but if you're feeling pretty strong, you could work up towards 5 times like that. And then maybe you can try that same movement, but on your elbows, on your forearms, and just see how that feels. Remember, you can skip this, but I'm just showing you all the different variations that you can do and how it might feel and look a little bit different. So if you're doing this on your elbows, it's the exact same thing. You're going to send the legs back behind you. You're inhaling to lift the hips up, bringing them up over the shoulders, and then rolling the wheel back again. Inhale to lift the hips up, push into the forearms and the elbows. Exhale, hips back, legs back. Inhale to push, and then exhale just to lower all the way back down. All right, that's it. We're sitting back now towards the heels or back to the child's pose. And once again, just shaking it out. Shaking out the shoulders and the arms. Sighing the breaths. Allow that wheel to just roll away if it's slipping away from you. Slowing your breaths right back down. Remember to go back through these different drills and just pause the video. Happy practicing.